Meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, ich darf Ihnen nun als weitere Schöller Fellows 2014 Professor Shirley Gregor und Professor Hevner vorstellen. Das ist eine Freude, das ist eine Ehre, es ist aber auch eine Innovation. Denn Shirley Gregor und Hevner haben sich mit einem gemeinsamen Forschungsprojekt für Nürnberg beworben und sie erhalten den Preis gemeinsam im Team für ihr gemeinsames Projekt. Lassen Sie mich aber dennoch die beiden zukünftigen Schöller Fellows einzeln vorstellen. Hierzu werde ich mit Kollegen Hevner beginnen. Hevner ist Eminent Scholar, Professor of Information Systems und Citigroup Hidden River Chair for Distributed Technology am College of Business der University of South Florida in den USA. Bemerkenswert ist sein Werdegang, der ihn nach Bachelor, Master und PhD an der Purdue University über die New York University, die University of Minnesota, die University of Maryland nach Florida führte. Dieser Weg aber hat seinen Anfang genommen in Schweinfurt und Ansbach, wo Hevner in den 1970er Jahren in der US Army diente. Der Schritt zurück nach Franken, lieber Alan, ist damit ein logischer, ein notwendiger und ein vielversprechender für die Forschung in Nürnberg. Der Lebens- und Forschungsweg von Hevner ist von herausragenden Forschungsbeiträgen gekennzeichnet, allein rund 200 Veröffentlichungen, aber auch immer enge Zusammenarbeit mit Unternehmen, Beratung, Begleitung, Mitgestaltung in zahlreichen Fortune 500 Unternehmen und natürlich, wie könnte es anders sein, von beeindruckenden Auszeichnungen gespickt. Hevner ist Fellow der American Association for the Advancement of Science, Träger des Lifetime Achievement Award der DESRIST für seine Beiträge zur Design Science. Zu nennen ist sein Outstanding Alumnus Award der Purdue University oder die ehrenvolle Auszeichnung als Eminent Scholar seiner Heimatuniversität. Das Forschungsportfolio von Hevner reicht in aller Kürze von der Gestaltung von Informationssystemen, dem Software Engineering, den verteilten Datenbanksystemen bis hin zur IT im Gesundheitswesen und Service-Oriented Computing. In der Wirtschaftsinformatik und weit darüber hinaus kennt man Hevner für seine Arbeiten zur Design Science Forschung. Sein Herz schlägt also für die gestaltende Forschung, für Forschung, die Spuren hinterlässt. Und es ist eine seiner großen Missionen, auch der nächsten Generation, diese Begeisterung für wissenschaftlich fundierte Gestaltung mit auf den Weg zu geben. Und diese Begeisterung und das Commitment für gestaltende Forschung auf höchstem wissenschaftlichem Niveau, das teilt er mit seiner Kollegin Dr. Shirley Gregor. Lassen Sie mich Shirley Gregor vorstellen. Dr. Shirley Gregor ist Professor für Information Systems an der Australian National University in Canberra und Leiterin des australischen National Centre for Information Systems Research. Geboren in Brisbane, studierte Shirley Gregor Informatik, Mathematik und Psychologie und war zunächst in der IT-Industrie in Australien und UK tätig, bevor sie in die Wissenschaft zurückkehrte und im Bereich Information Systems promovierte. Was dann folgt, ist so beeindruckend, dass ich nur allerkleinste Ausschnitte überhaupt anreißen kann. Werfen wir gemeinsam einen ganz kurzen Blick auf beeindruckende Auszeichnungen. Dr. Shirley Gregor ist Trägerin des australischen Verdienstordens, Officer of the Order of Australia in the Queen's Birthday List für ihre Verdienste in Lehre und Forschung im Bereich der Wirtschaftsinformatik, ganz besonders in der Entwicklung von E-Commerce-Anwendungen in der Agrarindustrie. Sie ist Fellow der Australian Computer Society, Fellow der Association for Information Systems, ANU Public Policy Fellow. Und Sie können sich vorstellen, wir könnten den Abend weiter mit Leistungen, Auszeichnungen verbringen. Lassen Sie mich nur noch ganz kurz einen Blick auf die Forschungsschwerpunkte werfen. Die liegen im Bereich der Adaption und des strategischen Einsatzes von Informations- und Kommunikationstechnologien, intelligente Systeme, Mensch-Computer-Interaktion und Technikphilosophie. Shirley Gregor hat große Forschungsprogramme national und international geleitet und gleichzeitig in der Akademie zahlreiche höchstrangige Leitungsfunktionen übernommen. Ich nenne nur zwei: Senior Editor von MISQ und Editor-in-Chief des Journal for the Association of Information Systems. Ich denke, dem ist nichts mehr hinzuzufügen. Wir sind alle begeistert und gespannt auf die Forschung, die Professor Shirley Gregor und Professor Hevner sich für Franken vorgenommen haben. Ich weiß, dass es mit der Arbeit schon morgen früh losgeht, nämlich mit einem Seminar für die Doktoranden am Fachbereich Wirtschaftswissenschaften, das, wie könnte es anders sein, vollständig ausgebucht ist. Das ist genau im Sinne der Schöller Fellowships. Denn, Sie wissen es, das Schöller Forschungszentrum signalisiert mit seinen hohen Auszeichnungen neben der Anerkennung für das Bereich Geleistete immer auch, wie könnte es anders sein, Erwartungen in die Zukunft. Meine Damen und Herren, wir können viel erwarten, wir dürfen gespannt sein und ich darf Sie zu mir bitten, die Schöller Senior Fellows 2014, Professor Shirley Gregor, Professor Hevner, ganz herzlichen Glückwunsch. Kommen Sie zu mir.
Well, I'm going to start, but don't worry, Shirley will be up here and be able to express her thank yous also. So let me start by saying many, many thanks. It's a true honor to be named a Schöller Senior Fellow, and as Catherine alluded to, this is a personal pleasure for me. I really consider Germany to be sort of my second home country based on both my ancestry, which on both sides is German, and for the time I spent in Germany. Partly as part of the U.S. Army, but I've been back many, many times since, and it's always a pleasure. So we are truly excited about the opportunity to participate with the Schöller Institute and the research that we're doing on innovation. So we'd like to give you just a very brief summary of the research project that we bring to the party here. Based upon both Shirley and my work and research on design science, we published a paper very recently where we proposed a way of positioning good design science research to make it both relevant and rigorous. So what we did was come up with this 2x2 matrix, and we supported doctoral students in how to publish and position their research based on this type of matrix. Now, the way we want to extend this research is to adapt this matrix now to think about what is innovation and how can we understand and support organizations, governments, to think about how to strategically position what they do as good innovation. Now, the essence of what we think innovation to be is how do we make an original knowledge contribution to the world based upon innovation? And we believe there are a number of ways to do this. So what we have here is what we term the knowledge innovation matrix. So it's a classification of innovation and knowledge contribution based upon the two dimensions that you see here. First, the maturity of the problem or the application domain, but also the maturity of existing knowledge or solutions to that particular problem. So we feel that this matrix provides a clarifying lens through which multiple stakeholders can strategically manage their innovation activities in these multiple contexts. If you look at the four contexts, we feel they're different. First of all, where you have low solution maturity as well as problem maturity, that's where we invent things, where we come up with new solutions for new problems. Now, if you move to the top, you see that where we understand the problem better, but we need better solutions to solve that type of problem or for that opportunity, that's improvement. We're coming up with better and new solutions for known problems. The bottom right is where it's a brand new problem. We don't really understand the problem very well, but we feel there are solutions from other domains. This is where we have the broad expanse of knowledge that a good innovator must have, a wide range of knowledge to take solutions from other domains and apply them to new problems. We term that exaptation. Finally, the top right quadrant, exploitation. This is where companies and organizations really take known solutions to known problems, may be new to that organization, but it is where we really, the rubber meets the road, if you will. It's where things really happen. It's where we can exploit good ideas to solve important problems. So one of our goals here is to apply these ideas and this matrix to important stakeholders in academia, in industry, and in government. We want to provide a practical guide for developing a common understanding and a common language among academic researchers whose goal is to advance knowledge, with industrial managers who want to develop new products, new services, and also government officials who want to increase the public welfare with funding and other resources aimed at improving innovation in the economy. So we believe this matrix does have some opportunity to define and categorize innovations on a solid foundation. So let me turn this over now to Shirley and let her expand on some of our goals and research directions in this area.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the Schöller Foundation for making it possible for me to come here and for all of those who've been involved in that process. I'm particularly grateful to be able to come to such a beautiful city and to a lovely country, and it's very exciting for an Australian to come from a country that is very new in terms of its history to come to a country that has such a tremendous tradition, and particularly a tradition in learning. I've been very conscious of, when visiting Germany, of what a great tradition that you have in learning in the technological sciences, which I think is something really to be admired in a country. And as we know, some other countries have not valued that knowledge as much, and so I think that actually has affected their progress over the years. So Professor Hevner has introduced the matrix that underlies our work, and I'm just going to explain a little bit more about one direction we could take that matrix, and it's the one that we're actually pursuing at the moment. So this direction concerns the methods and the processes that you might use for innovation. And innovation often, when studied in universities, is studied as something that's mainly to do with management, and we looks a lot at leadership and so on. But we think of ourselves as design scientists. We are perhaps more interested in the methods and processes that you can use that are followed by the inventors, who we think are pretty important too, not just the management, not just the managers of the people doing the innovating. And when we look at it, we can see that this matrix allows us to actually study different processes, that quite distinct processes that occur in the different quadrants. So much of my life's been spent in this quadrant up here. So working with companies, working with industries like the beef industry, helping them to adopt technologies that already exist somewhere else. And so the innovation there is that the thing is new to them rather than being new to the world. And I've also worked here to some extent in what we'd call research and design, in building things. Sadly, I have never invented anything. I would love to invent something, but it's not given to many of us to be like that. Now, why do we need something like this? So just as one of the motivators for this is that I'm working on another project which is to do with mobile devices in museums to help people learn as they travel around museums. Now, there hasn't been anything like that much before. And when I was talking to my colleague, I said, how are we going to go about this? And he said, oh, we'll do a traditional 2B model and an as-is model, and then we'll work out how to get from one to the other. So he was thinking that he's up in this quadrant, a traditional sort of software engineering approach. But the thing that we have there is really quite novel, and he'd be better off, I think, thinking that we might go down here and do a little bit more creative thinking. So that's one way that you could use this, what we're doing here. Another way is that some companies appear to be able to manage their innovation process across nearly all of the quadrants. So if you take a company like Arup Engineering, which most of you probably know of, I mean, they're very, very active in Germany. When you look to see what they do, they have processes for innovation of many different types. So we're thinking that we can hopefully develop a tool that will enable a company to assess themselves against these ideas to see if they're doing as much in innovation as they could. So I'll just explain the quadrants a little bit more as to what that might mean, is that some innovations, as Al said, are inventions. They're completely new. So what sort of process do you use to help someone have an invention? Well, that area is where the processes are fairly unspecified, but what you might do is have an organisational policy that allows people time to experiment. So the example there is of post-it notes that was developed at 3M, and they have what's called a bootlegging policy, where they allow people to work 25% of their time on something that's just of interest to them. It's not a set task, it's just things that interest them, and that's exactly where the post-it notes came from. This quadrant up here, this is where you have improvements. So you've got a purpose, you know what you're trying to do, but you're thinking there's probably better ways of doing it. So the example that's there is of the stealth technologies that were developed by Lockheed Martin during the Cold War, where they were trying to develop better ways of avoiding radar for planes. And that really was a breakthrough technology there. The guy that did that, he took advantage of the new computer software plus some ideas about minimising the sort of the footprint of the radar. So how do they do that? What sort of process do you have there? We might call it design science. It might traditionally be called research and development. So it's similar to development work that you do in industry, say in software engineering, but you're also allowing employees the freedom again to experiment. Lockheed had a thing called skunk works, where you actually put the people away separately from the rest of the organisation, so that they're not quite so bound up in ordinary, everyday, ongoing work, but they can experiment and do different things, new things. This quadrant down here, exaptation or repurposing. Here's where you take some known technology and then use it for a completely different purpose. So the example there is Xerox, one of their, I think he was a physicist, realised that you could use laser technology and apply it to printers. So he apparently he was almost like a sort of a mad inventor. He kept having ideas all the time, but this one turned out to be a good one. So he basically took one of their photocopiers at Xerox and put laser technology in it, and that's where laser printers started. So what sort of processes do you use there? Again, perhaps not such structured processes, but you can use creativity methods like ideation, where you actually try and help people to be more creative, put ideas together, put people together from different fields, a little bit like the Schöller Fellows. You get all of us here from different fields and we, cross-fertilise. You might think how something someone's doing can be used in a different area. And the last quadrant up here seems a little bit more dull. This is the exploitation quadrant, where you don't invent something that's new to the world, but you take something that's out there and it's new to you. And of course, this is the area where companies can make an enormous amount of money. They don't have the risk associated with these things if they can get in and use something skillfully for their own company. And so the example there is from Arup, and so they have a program that they call horizon scanning, where they explicitly look out to see what new technologies, what new trends are happening and how they can make use of those trends in their company. And so that particular example there is of green technology, and that's a little township that was built in Sweden that's using really very, very advanced methods of managing energy. So I'm hoping I'm convincing you that this is a worthwhile. We haven't tried this yet, this is new, so we have to go out and basically try and develop this with companies who might think that this is a useful idea. So I hope I've convinced you all it's a useful idea. So that's the end of what I'm going to say, and once again thank you very much for all those concerned in bringing me this very long distance. Thank you.